Okay, so today we are going to learn about queuing theory. Okay, so what is queuing theory? Queuing theory actually deals with various types of queue, right? In our daily life, we almost everywhere we or not really, I mean almost everywhere we go for getting some service. We actually face some queue, right? Because in queue, what happens there, a service provider provides some services, and the in the queue actually we are waiting, right? So queue is basically formed by the people or by the customers to in order to get some service from a server, right? So in queuing theory, we will actually analyze the performance of the queues, like waiting time, uh, like various probabilitical aspects of the queue. Okay, this is not a decision making topic. Okay, so from this topic we are not trying to optimizing something. Rather we are working with some model like which best represent a queue, and trying to find out the performance of those model. Okay, so that's the thing. We will not going to take make any decision, or going to uh, going to optimize something. Okay, we're just trying to find out some performance measures from this queuing theory. So let us start. So as I told you that a queue is a waiting line, right? Generated to get some service. In uh, in uh, in case of there are various like in ticket counter, right? Whenever you are going to buy tickets from your uh, railway ticket booking counter, you always find a queue there. Or in bank, wherever you go to get some service, you always have some queue, right? People are waiting for their turn to get the service, right? So when the service void serves at a lower speed than the arrival rate of the service request, okay, that is the customers, then a queue is formed. If the service provider provides the service at a higher rate than the arrival rate, what will happen then? No queue will be formed, right? So no so in that case actually queue will not be formed. But if the service provider serves at a lower speed, right, then the queue will be formed, right? Or it may also happen that at a time a bulk number, a numerous customer has come, right? So in that case also also queue will be formed, right? Because this kind of rush, actually, again you can explain it like at the rush hour the arrival rate is much higher than the service provider at the rate the service provider is providing the service, right? So again, so service provider, if service provider is lower than the arrival rate of the service request, then a queue is formed, right? So let us look at different types of queues. There are many more queues. Okay, so queuing theory actually a very vast chapter, very vast topic indeed. So what we will have, we will have this in bank counters, right? In bank counters, whenever you will go into a bank, you can find that there are different counters, and both of them, I mean all of them are actually providing you different services, right? At some counter it is depositing money, at some counter it is opening the account, at some counters uh, they are printing the passbooks, right? So what will happen, so in different counters, so actually in this bank counter what we have, there are different servers, right? So those counters are basically acting as a servers, and people who want to get the service actually lined up in front of the counter, right? So that is a queue is formed, right? So what will happen in this counter? Suppose in this counter a service provider is providing a service. The person who is getting the service, except that person, all of them are lined in the queue. Okay, so queue begins from the person who is waiting, not who is getting the service. Okay, so in this example of bank counter, what we will have, we have n number of counter, right? So all of them are serving parallelly. Okay, So this might happen that all these counters act similar works, or this might also happen that they are providing different services. Okay, so in case of bank, actually we will have different services, right? And and for each of these counter, there will have separate queue or parallel lines, right? So this is one kind of example of a queue. There are other kind of example, like in barber shop. So in barber shop, what you will find that there are multiple counters or multiple barbers are there in a single shop, and they are at the parallelly doing the haircuts of different customers, right? So what in barber shop we have suppose generally what we have is bench or chair outside the shop where the people sit and wait for their turns, right? And whenever any of the barber shop is finished the previous customer, the next person waiting in the queue actually get that services. Okay, get into that counter or get to that barber to get a haircut, right? So in case of this kind of example, what we have, we will have a single queue, but there are multiple servers, right? And from that queue, whoever is going to be served next is go to the is going to the counter which is just having some vacancy. I mean, which is the previous counter just left. Okay, so the people waiting in the queue can go any of this counter as soon as it is available. Okay, so this is what we have in case of barber shop, right? uh, Another example that we have in Durga Puja's pandal in Kolkata, what we have in this kind of queue, suppose this counter is nothing but the puja pandal. Okay, and people are going to visit that to see the Durga idol. And what happens in many puja pandals, you can see that there are several entry points or several queues. Okay, and finally they end up meeting at a single point, and then they go to see the pandals. Okay, so in this kind of queue, what we have multiple channel coming together, but finally they merge into in a single channel, and then they get into a service. Okay, so this generally occurs in case of your single server scenario, where we'll have only one server which is providing some services, and there are multiple queues. Okay, what happens in this kind of scene, suppose in case of this Kolkata pujas, what happens, the general queue for the general people is served once, and then queue for the VIPs is served once, and then queue for the VVIPs are served once, like that. Okay, so this is how the uh, this queuing example works, right? And finally we will have the simplest one, where we will have like only one counter and only one queue, right? In any local shop we will find this kind of, like in ration shop. So there is only one counter which is providing you the service, and people are waiting for this getting this service. Okay, so only the people who is in the front will get the service. Okay, this is how the scenarios in queues are. Okay, so we'll have different mathematical models for all of them. We'll get to know about those things. Okay, okay. So now what we call, so we'll let's get some terminology. So where the people are getting served, the counters actually is called the service facility. Okay, so in the service facility of the bank, means the bank building itself. Okay, where we have actually in the bank building itself, there are multiple servers there, right? And all of them are basically coming to uh, get the service in the counter. So in the facility, actually there are multiple servers, right? So facility means you can tell like the campus where the servers are located, and where the people are going to get being served. Okay, and next we'll have the queue. Okay, so queue is the waiting people waiting in the line. Okay, service facility, in the service facility actually people are getting served. Okay, so whoever in the in the counter is getting served, right? That single person in each of the counter is getting served, right? So they are in the service facility, and queue is basically the people who are waiting in the lines, okay, to get the service. And the whole system, the service facility plus the queue is called the system, okay. So whenever we are going to tell you that this is the probability of the system, it means it is covering all the things, people in the service facility who are currently getting the service, as well as who are waiting in the queue, okay. But if you tell like a probability of number of person in the queue, it means people only in the queue, not in the service facility, okay. So a queue is basically characterized by several things. They are like maximum permissible number of customers. They may be infinite or finite. Okay, so the number of customers allowed, they may be infinite or finite. The number of servers available, like here we have 3 servers, right? In bank counters and barber shop. In Kolkata Pujas and local shop, we will only single server, right? So all these things characterize the queue, okay. The type of service mechanism. So like in so as I was telling that there are multiple things on which the through which the queue is characterized, okay. Just as I told you, like the maximum permissible customers, right? They may be infinite or finite. Number of servers, type of the service mechanism. So type of the service mechanism, like a queue may be served in FIFO order or first come first serve order, in LIFO order, okay, last in first out order, or zero. There are orders, type of the service mechanism, okay, that we're going to learn. So they are also characterizing this queue. The arrival pattern and the distribution pattern. So arrival pattern and distribution pattern actually gives you the probability distributions of how the customers are arriving, and how the departure pattern means actually how long the service, the pattern of the or the distribution of the service times, that a customer being served is taking this much of time, okay. So distribution of that time is gives you the departure pattern. So arrival pattern and departure pattern are two very important aspects of this queuing theory, okay. So what we'll going to learn, we'll basically try to study the nature of queue using some queuing model, okay. So we'll see two of the models which are very simple, but these two models we'll study in our syllabus, and there are a whole lot of model, okay. We'll just see, I mean how this model is being developed, okay. And determined is various performance attributes. So we'll model a queue, mathematically model a queue, and from that we'll try to determine how a queue behaves, okay. What is its waiting time in the system and waiting time in the line. All these attributes we will try to find out, okay. So when we are so as we know that we'll try to analyze a queue by making a model of it, right? So what are the element that we require to make a queuing model, okay? That thing we're going to learn next. Bidisha is telling something. Sir, in your absence, by default, I was the host, so I had unlocked the meeting since I thought maybe you would also not be able to enter if the room was locked. Uh, okay, that is not an issue. Thank you for doing that. Maybe I will be waiting in that case. Okay, if it was locked. Okay, thank you, Vidisha. So, anyways, next is element of the queuing model. Internet connectivity is a bit intermittent for last few days here. Okay, so last day also when I was taking class of algorithm of second year, they are having this kind of issues. I don't know, Amphan is coming, but prior to he lands, it is also starting the creating problem. I don't know why, but anyways, let us focus on queuing model. Uh, just be prepared for Amphan. Okay, there will be most of the service disruption of electricity service, probably internet service as well for few days. I believe so, because the that is an extremely severe cyclone that is being created in the Bay of Bengal. So please be aware and be with all your resources like food, water, and electricity will be disrupted. So be prepared for that. Okay. So anyways, looking into the queuing models. So as I told you, what are the facts, what are the thing that we will have to focus when we are building a queuing model. Okay. So the first and foremost thing, a queue is not from until there is some input, right? Until somebody arrives and waiting for a service, right? So the arrival process or the input is basically the first aspect of a queuing model. Okay. So how the arrival is taking place. So the way a customer or request arrives and joins the system is known as in, input or arrival process. Okay. So the input and arrival process in most of the queue that you will deal in your daily life is more or less random. Okay. So they does not depend on the number of customer present in the system and initially, and so we'll see that there are two states of a queue. One is your steady state, another is your transient state. So we'll come to it later. Okay. So more or less queuing model is random. Okay. And when more than one arrival occurs, it is called bulk or batch arrival. Okay. So in a queue, suppose when you get into buy a ticket from railway counter, so you alone generally go, right? But suppose you are traveling with a group of people, like excursion of school. There are 60 students, suppose, getting somewhere. So uh, if all of them are getting into the line, so it will a bulk arrival, right? So this kind of thing may occur in a queuing system. Okay. So bulk arrival or batch arrival is possible. So for analyzing purpose, the arrival time of customer is represented by interval time, inter arrival time. So we can represent actually the arrival of the customers through the distribution of their inter arrival time. Okay. We will see that how it will be represented. Okay. In most of the time, arrival is totally random process following the Poisson distribution. Okay. So we'll have to Poisson distribution has a very important role in this queuing system that we are going to learn. Okay. So we'll also get to see that how it is occurring. So if you can remember that Poisson distribution is totally a discrete distribution and random distribution, right? So we'll get into the feature of the Poisson distribution in a later slide. Okay. So so Poisson distribution, oh sorry, I have explained it over here only. So Poisson distribution is actually probability that a given number of events occur in a fixed interval of time with a constant mean rate, right? So the important factor of Poisson distribution is that the constant mean rate. Okay. So suppose we will in queuing model we will assume that the arrival rate is like 5 customer per hour. So we'll assume that at every hour 5 customer will arrive in the system. Okay. And it doesn't mean that every 12 minute a customer will arrive. It means that in every hour there will be at most there will be exactly 5%. Okay. So that is the constant mean rate. So it may occur that the 5% comes in quick succession within 10 minutes. Okay. And the rest of the 50 minutes there will be no arrival. Okay. So this is how it is characterized, the Poisson distribution. So we'll have like constant mean rate. Okay. And and it basically denotes the a given number of event occurs in a fixed interval of time. Okay. So this is what will characterize our arriving process. Okay. It will be independent of times since the last event. So we'll see that when a person is arriving in a queue, so that person is an or the customer is an individual, right, independent entity, right? So he or she can arrive in to get the service at any time, depending, that is independent of when the last person joined, right? So suppose you are going to get a service from somewhere, so when you are entering in get the service, you when you enter join the queue, it is independent of when the last person, the person before you, joins the queue, right? So this is what it means. So it is independent of time since the last event occur. Last event is the arrival of the last person. Okay. And queuing theory, the input process also largely depend on the customer behavior, but we will not we'll just know what are the behaviors. Okay. And we'll not see to model how these behaviors. So that is not in our part. So a customer may choose to wait in spite of having a long queue. Okay, so suppose the service is very essential, and it is service is very essential, and there is only a single server is there, or maybe there may be multiple servers, but in all of them they are a long queue. Okay, like a critical service, like water. Okay, suppose you are in a remote place in Rajasthan, or Sam sand dunes, or in sand dunes. Okay, in what it is called. So there is a lack of supply of drinking water, right? So the ruling party, or the government provides some water. So you can see that there are a long queue to get the service, to get the water, right? So in that scenario, the service is very essential to the customer, and the customer actually joins the queue. How whatever be the length of the queue become, right? Okay, but it is also possible that a customer may not join a queue. Okay, for the queue being too hard, too long for him or her to wait. Okay, it may also happen like you are in a hurry and you want to get a service, but you have no time. Okay, and you find that the queue is too long for you to wait. Okay, so in that case you will not join the queue, and this kind of behavior is called bulking. Okay. There are other scenario like reneging. In reneging, a customer may leave a queue after joining the queue, being impatient by waiting for a long time. So you can find that in many of the time, in many times actually, you will find that some people are waiting in a queue, and if the queue is moving so slow, the service time is very high. Okay, so what will happen? Some people get annoyed, get impatient, and they leave the queue. Okay, uh, not only leave the queue, they leave the system as well. Okay, like in if you most of the time, if you go some renowned bank counter where there are very long line to print the passbook only, you will find that many people get annoyed, and because printing passbook is not much of essential service. So getting out of this queue for uh, for waiting there for a long time. Okay, this kind of behavior is called reneging. Okay, and finally we will have the jockeying. In jockeying, what we will have, a customer may move from one queue to the end of another queue. So suppose in when you are going to purchase a railway ticket. Okay, and you find that there are there are parallel queues. Okay, which are being served by parallel counters. You generally, when you arrive, you generally tend to join the queue which is shorter, right? Now after joining, you find that that queue is moving very slow, because most of the customer there is having like the monthly service, monthly ticket or booking, or yearly ticket booking kind of stuff, which is taking much time than the queues just beside you, right? So what you at that time do, you basically move to the other queue, right, because they are moving faster, right? So this kind of behavior is called jockeying. Okay, so jockeying, in jockeying actually, a customer may move from one queue to end of the another queue. Okay, from one queue you cannot move to the middle of the other queue, right? you have to, if you are jockeying, you have to get into the end of the other queue, right? So that is what about the input process. Next we will focus on the next element, which is output or service mechanism. Okay, so again there will be one or more service facilities in a queuing model. Okay, so each service facility contains one or more parallel service channels called server, right? So in the first slide, as we show that in bank counter, we will have, in that service facility we will have three parallel service channels, right? Where the service are given in parallel, right? So like in railway ticket counter, so they falls in this kind of structure. Okay, so each service facility may contains one or more parallel service channel. So there may be one service channel, more than one service channel. Okay, and infinite number of servers implies that instantaneous service to the customer on arrival, right? So if you have like infinite number of servers, though I cannot give any example at this moment right now, in real life example, so if you have infinite number of servers, so any customer, as soon as it arrives, it will get service, right? So there will be no queue, right, in case of infinite number of servers. A queuing model must specify the arrangement of facilities and the number of servers or parallel channels. Okay, so to model a queue, this is also a very important criteria, how the people are getting served. Okay, so they may be served in parallel, they may be served in series. Okay, uh, the time required to serve a customer is at a service facility is called the service time per customer, or only the service time. Okay, so how much time it is taking to serve a customer is called as a service time. Queuing model requires a probability distribution for each server. So actually queuing model will do the probability distribution of the service times of the servers. Okay, not for the servers, rather the distribution is of the service time. Though most of the time the probability distribution is used for all the servers, same probability distribution. Okay, so so what it is telling that in case of parallel channels, you will have multiple servers, right? So it is possible that you can use different probability distribution for the service time for for different servers, or in the most of the time, for simplicity of analyzing, uh, what we do, we basically use the same probability distribution of service times for all the servers available in the service facility. Okay, so the service time distribution follows the exponential distribution most of the time. Again, so we'll find that this exponential distribution and the Poisson distribution are basically very closely interrelated. Okay, so in Poisson distribution, actually we measure the number of probability of number of events, okay, during a time span, and the inter-arrival time of the events follows the exponential distribution. Okay, so this actually what we'll see in later slide, that this input and output both actually kind of following same pattern, uh, either I mean Poisson and exponential. Okay, so they are the same thing. uh, Next is system capacity. It is actually defining by the finite source. In finite source queue, there is a finite limit to maximum capacity. Means though we'll do this for probably infinite sources. Okay, so the system capacity may be infinite, or system capacity also may be finite. Like in case of railway counter, they are kind of infinite system capacity. Okay, so any number of passenger may get into the line, right, in railway counter, so that is kind of infinite capacity. Finite capacity is like when you are onboarding a bus, and you are you are in a queue to getting onboarded into a bus, right? So the number of seats are fixed, right? So you will be in a queue, and one by one you will get into the bus. So as soon as the bus get full, the service that you are getting from the bus ends there, right? And the bus will leave, right? So this is kind of the example of system capacity, where the system capacity may be finite, may be infinite. Okay, so in finite source queue there is a finite limit to the maximum capacity of the system, and if you have a finite capacity, then we'll have forced bulking, right? So as in the bus example, as soon as the bus get full, you cannot get into the bus, right? So you cannot get the service from that bus, so you will be forced to leave that bus, right? So that is the forced bulking. But if you have infinite capacity, forced bulking is not there. In case of infinite capacity, bulking will occur only if the customer wants. Okay, so the customer will never be forced to be bulked. Okay, the next thing we'll focus, the next element that we'll get to know is about the queuing discipline. Okay, so queuing discipline describe the order in which the customer in the queue are served. Okay, and the most famous or most general is the first come first serve discipline. Okay, where the customer who is in the first who is at the front of the queue is basically served prior to the other customer. Okay, so in FCFS actually they are served in the order they arrive. Again we will have this LIFO concept, or LCFS, last come first serve, where the most recent arrivals will be getting the service first. Okay, and zero is like service in random order. Okay, so in zero, the next customer to get the service is randomly chosen from the queue. Okay, so there is that will be totally random. Another queue you also know about that is priority queue, right? So in priority queue discipline, the next customer is to be served is decided on the priority value of the customer. Uh, so when you are waiting in a service, right? Probably they can serve you on the basis of their age, or they can serve you like for how long you are a customer of those service. So that value actually give the priority value of you as a customer, right? Either your age uh, or your relationship with the service provider during the duration of your relationship with the service provider. These things comes as a priority value to into the priority queue. Okay, so priority queue again can be either preemptive or non-preemptive, as you already probably know from the concept of operating system, right? So yes, so in operating system also we have queue, right? Job queues. So job queues are also an example of this kind of queues, right? So in job queues we'll have this FIFO or LIFO, or again we'll have this priority queue, right? So priority queue again can be preemptive or non-preemptive. So you know that as soon as a higher priority customer arrives or higher priority job arrives, what we will have like the customer is being served is basically suspended, and the higher priority job is being selected for execution, right? So this is the nature of preemptive. And in case of non-preemptive, if a lower priority job, or if a lower priority customer is being served currently and a higher priority customer arrives, the lower priority customer is fully served, then only the higher priority will be allowed to get the service. Okay, so this is the concept of preemptive and non-preemptive, right? So queuing discipline, so in case of parallel channels, okay, if FSR, like the fastest server rule, can be adopted, where the fastest channel, if more than one channels are free, will be allocated to the customer. So suppose there are again the railway example, there are multiple channels, right, giving you the same service, right? The ticking bucket counter. So what you will do, you will basically you will basically see which queue is moving first. So actually in FSR actually the next customer is allotted to the counter which is basically giving you the service at the highest rate. Okay, so you also actually try to determine by seeing the how a queue is moved, right, how the queue persons in the queue is served. Based on that you join the queue, right, whichever is having the fastest server, you basically join that queue. So that happens only if the queue is a parallel channel queue, right. Next is the service channel. So a queuing system with one server is known as one server model, and a queuing system with more than one channel is called multi-server model. Okay, so we'll the model we'll have only one server model. We do not have multi-server model in our syllabus. Okay, if the servers of a multi-server model provides identical service, then parallel channels are created, right, where the several customer may be served simultaneously. So like if you see this example, so in this example actually you can see that there are multiple servers, and if they are serving the same service, all the counters, right, so the multiple parallel channel will be created. Okay, so this is actually occurred in a railway ticket counter most of the time, right. So if the server of a multi-server model provides identical services like the ticket booking counter, right, parallel channels are created where the several customer may be served simultaneously, right. Now as for example ticket booking counter, right, or as for example in your barber shop. So in barber shop also you will have n servers, right, but there will be only one queue, as I shown you, right. So what we will have, so in barber shop all the barbers giving you the same service, right. So the servers are giving you the same services. More than one customer can be served simultaneously at a single time, right. Or ticket booking counter you will have n servers and n queues. In multi-server series channel, like uh, in multi-server series channel, what will happen, a customer has to go through all the channels one by one to get the complete service, like in your bank. Okay, in your bank, suppose you are going getting into a bank to open an account, right. So if you ask some employee of the bank, they will direct you to some customer where the where opening account is done, right. So in that counter you will basically fill some form and your account will get open, and they will ask you to deposit some money in some other counter, right. So then you go to the next counter where you will deposit the money, and once you deposit the money, it will ask you to go to an other counter where you will print the passbook, right. So here you can see that in bank actually you will have different counters for different services, right. and and what will happen for some services like opening an account uh, is basically is a combination of three or four subsequent services, right. So you have to open the account, I mean filling up the form and submit it. They will open an account, they will issue a passbook to you, and then you will deposit some money into that account, and then you will get the passbook printed, right. So this is how a bank operates. Okay, and this is an example of multi-server series channel. Okay, so you have to get through all of this counter one by one to get the service fully. So that was the elements of the queue. So the elements, if I summarize, the elements have like the arrival or input process, right, the probability distribution of the inputs, the service mechanism or output process, right. uh, Next we have the queue discipline, how the queue is being served, like FIFO, LIFO, zero, all those things. Next we have the system capacity, the capacity of the system, how many people are allowed or how many customers allowed in that system. and next we have the last one, right, which is the service channel. Okay, so that may be parallel, there may be n number of channel, or there may be a single channel as well. So this characterize a queue. Okay, next we'll get to know about the states of a queue. So a queue is said to be in transient state. Okay, when it is when its operating characteristics are depending on time. Okay, so you will see that some parameters of the queue, basically some parameters of the queue are dependent on time, or in transient state. Transient statement is basically dependent on time. Okay, and we'll have another state, so which is called steady state. So in steady state, the characteristics are independent of time. So what will happen actually, uh, generally when a queue, when a service counter is open, initially that the system becomes system for is in transient state. Okay, so all the parameters of the system uh, initially dependent on time, but as long as the service provider continues, or if the service is provided for a long period of time, then the system generally moves to a steady state. Okay, where all the parameters are independent of the uh, time. Okay, so we'll see about that. So therefore, if Pn denotes the probability that there are n customer at the system in the system at time t. Okay, so in steady state, so as I told you that in steady state it is independent of time, right? So if Pn denotes that the denotes the probability that there are n customer in the system at time t, then in steady state what we will have, we'll have derivative of that. This will be dt. Okay, so we'll have the derivative of that p dash of derivative of that p and t will have 0, right, because it will not be dependent on t. Okay, so this is a mistake, so it will be dt. Okay, so dpnt by dt, or ddt of pnt will be 0, because in steady state they are not dependent on time. We'll also see that when we will derive some expression for the queues, we'll find that in steady state they are not dependent on the time. Okay, in the beginning a system starts in a transient state, as I told you, and after sufficiently long time it turned into a steady state. Okay, but it will not further dependent on the time. And there are a multiple notation that will you have to keep in mind. Okay, generalized model assumes that both arrival and departure rate is state dependent. Okay, means depends on the number of customer in the system. So arrival and departure date actually depends uh, on the number of the customer in the system, not on time. Okay, so actually what it happens, see, in case of arrival date, if you found that in a service queue there is a long line, right, the queue length is very long, so what will happen, people will try to avoid those line, right? So arrival rate, if you find that this for a long queue the arrival rate actually generally decreases, right? Okay, and that will depend on the, so if you have a longer queue and you have a shorter queue, right, so what will happen, so arrival rate of these two queue will be different, right? People will more join in this shorter queue, right? So the arrival rate will depend on the number of the customer in the system, right? Again, if you look at the departure rate, suppose suppose in a queue, right, so suppose you are the server, you are printing the railway ticket and giving out to the customers. Okay, now suppose you find there is a longer line, so what you will try to do, you will try to serve it quickly, right? You try to do it quickly, right, with all your efforts, right? So you will basically try to increase your efficiency, right? So at that time your performance will be boosted up. Okay, and now, and if you find that the queue is shorter, so you will work in a relaxed mode, right? So your efficiency will be reduced, right? So that's what the departure rate will be dependent on the number of customers in the system. So general models actually assumes those things. Okay, so arrival and departure rate in the is basically state dependent. State means the number of customers in the system. So let n be the number. So we are just showing you the notations that we are going to use in the further in this topic. Okay, so n will be the number of customers in the system. Okay, and lambda n basically gives you the arrival rate given n number of customers in the system. So as I told you that the arrival rate and departure rate basically will be dependent on the number of customers, right? Will be dependent on the number of customers. So that's why the lambda n will decide your arrival rate, that n number of customers in the system. Mu n will give you the departure rate given n number of customer in the system. So departure rate is basically dependent on your service time, right? So it is basically inversely proportional to the service time, right? Next is your traffic intensity. It is denoted by rho. Okay, traffic intensity or utilization factor, which is basically given by the arrival rate by departure rate. Okay, so we'll see that rho is an important factor in the model that we'll going to see. Okay, next we will have pn. Pn is the steady state probability that there are n customer in the system. So steady state means there will be no dependency on time, right? So so in steady state the probability of uh, of the system having n customer is again is denoted by pn. Okay, so again the system means in queue plus who are getting service. Okay, now these are the some important parameters that we'll have to derive for the models, like ls gives you the expected number of customers in the system. Okay, so when we will analyzing the characteristics of the queue, we are trying to basically find out these parameters like ls. Okay, ls is one of them, which is basically expected number of time of the expected number of customers in the system. Okay, next we will have lq. Lq is the expected number of customers in the queue. So these two are different. Okay, in system means, so ls actually will have like lq plus some plus the expected number of customers in getting the service. Okay, so system means q plus in service, right? So similarly we will have ws, which will give you the expected waiting time in the system, and we will have wq, which will give you the expected waiting time in the queue. So these four parameters is basically what we are trying to find out for a model of queue. Okay, and this will be kind of input, like there are n customer in the system, lambda is the arrival rate, mu is the departure rate, rho is the traffic intensity, and with those information of a model, of a queue model, we are trying to find out this we'll try to derive this kind of parameters. Okay, so this is what we are going to do. So before moving into modeling a queue, what we will see, we will basically have that most of the queue dependent on, actually I mean the arrival and departure, actually kind of Poisson process. So what is this Poisson process? Okay, okay, so this is many of them it's called as Poisson, and many of them call it Poisson. Okay, so you can tell it anyway. So most of the queuing model most queuing model follow the arrival rate and the service rate. Service rate means departure rate also. Okay, follows a Poisson distribution. So how it is? So in Poisson distribution, so Poisson distribution actually a discrete probability distribution, right? It denotes the probability of a given number of events occur in a fixed interval of time. Okay, so this is what we are trying to find out, that the probability that given number of events occur, like probability that n arrivals occurred in a t time duration. Okay, so that is kind of the thing we are going to do. Okay, so in Poisson actually we will have this kind of distribution. So it denotes the probability of a given number of event occur in a fixed interval of time. Okay, the events are known to be occurred at a constant min rate. So this is another important factor of Poisson distribution. So see, in a steady state of a queue, what we will have like the number of arrivals will be a kind of constant. Okay, at t times we will have always n number of arrivals. So this kind of thing will be happen. Okay, so that doesn't mean that they will be at equally distributed. Means if there are 5 customer arriving per hour, if it is the rate, it doesn't mean that every 12 hour a customer will arrive. It will arrive 5 customer may arrive in quick succession, and maybe in later half of that 1 hour. Okay, so that is totally random. So events are independent of time since the last events, as I already know that as I already told you that in Poisson distribution the events are basically independent uh, of when the last events are have occurred. Okay, so this gives you totally randomness. So probability density function of Poisson distribution is given by this. I think you already have done this in your mathematics class, right? So pn of t is denoted by uh, in Poisson distribution we will have lambda t to the power n into e to the power minus lambda t divided by n factorial, right? So this is how the Poisson distribution looks like, right? So a counting process, suppose n of t, right, where nt denotes the total number of events up to time t with a constant rate lambda greater than 0 is a Poisson process if the following condition holds. Okay, so so suppose nt denotes your the number of total events occurred up to time t. Okay, so so if we have a rate lambda which is greater than 0, so we can call nt is a Poisson process if the following condition hold. One is n0 equals to 0. It means initially there will be 0 events, okay, when time equals to 0, and nt has independent increments, that is the number of events in non-overlapping intervals are independent. It means suppose in case of in any queue like in the railway queue. So suppose at from 8 p.m. to 8:15 p.m. Okay, so 8 p.m. to 8:15 p.m. uh, the number of arrivals from 8 p.m. to 8:15 p.m. will be independent of the number of arrivals from 7:45 p.m. to 8 p.m. Okay, so this is what it is trying to mean. It is trying to tell that the number of events in non-overlapping intervals are independent. So this is kind of memoryless property, okay, of Poisson distribution. So the number of events in any interval of length h has a Poisson distribution over the value of lambda into h. So so if the time interval is h, okay, so if the time interval is h and you have the constant rate of lambda, okay, so what we it is told that as per the Poisson distribution, the number of events at a time interval h will have distribution over lambda h. Okay, so in a Poisson process, the distribution of number of events is events during an interval depends on only on the interval. Okay, so it will not depend on suppose, I mean, what does it actually mean? It actually trying to mean that uh, the number of events that is occurring in following a Poisson distribution is always dependent on the time interval you are considering and not the particular time. What it is trying to mean, suppose the last arrival of a customer happened at 8 p.m. okay, and you are trying to find out find out the expected value or the probability of number of arrivals at 8:30 p.m. So it will basically give you in terms of the 30 minutes interval. Okay, it will not give you the value in terms of what will be at 8:30 p.m. Okay, so that will be always be dependent on the interval. Okay, that is what it is trying to mean. So in a Poisson process, distribution of number of events, okay, distribution of number of events during an interval depends on only on the interval. Okay, so it means that if you have a if you have a distribution at time t and you are trying to find out what will be the value at time t plus delta t. Okay, so sorry, what will be value at time t plus delta t. Okay, so that will be dependent only on the value of this delta t. Okay, that is the interval of the time, not on this t plus delta t, not on this t. Okay, so this is the memoryless property, or in case of Poisson distribution. Okay, so so anyways, this is the details of Poisson process. You probably already have known this thing. This is just to recapitulate your or making you remember these things. Okay, and next we have exponential distribution. So in exponential distribution actually is a probability distribution of time interval. Okay, between the events in Poisson process. So as I told you, in the Poisson process, that the distribution of the number of events will depend on the time interval, right? That is the delta t, right? So that time so if you again try to find out the probability distribution of delta t, this follows the exponential distribution. Okay, so the probability distribution of time interval between the events in a Poisson process actually follows this exponential distribution. So exponential distribution is a special case of gamma distribution. Okay, and this of memoryless. Okay, so a random variable x has exponential distribution if and only if its possible probability density function is given by this one. Okay, so lambda is your rate of the event occur, and x is the random variable. So what we will have is, in case of exponential distribution, we will have probability of x and lambda is like lambda into e to the power minus lambda x for x greater than 0 and 0 otherwise. Okay, so probability of an event that is arrival or departure during a very small interval of time, which is from t to t plus h. Okay, so the time interval is basically h, right, where h tends to lambda is lambda h. Okay, so lambda is nothing but the, as I told you, is rate of event per unit time. And when you are trying to find out that the probability of that event or probability of an event, okay, from the time interval from t to th, the probability will have lambda into h, right? So see, you can see that it is dependent only in the time interval, right? H is your time interval in this case, right? So from t to t plus h, the time interval is h, and the probability of it is dependent on that thing only. Lambda is a constant. So rate of event per unit time is basically independent of time, right? So this is the constant, and it is only dependent on h. Okay, so now as h tends to 0, what we will have, so as h tends to 0, that probability of occurring more than one event in such time interval will be negligible. So since we are considering the time interval is very less, so it means that it can allow at most one event that can occur in that interval. Okay, so this will be an important property to analyze our queuing factor. Okay, so we'll try to find out the probability of having an event in a small duration of time. So as soon as we refer to a small duration of time, it will constrain the system to have at most one event occur at that time. So there will be either 0 events or 1 event during this time interval. Okay, so this will help us analyzing the thing. So probability of an event during this time interval does not depend on what happened prior to time t. Okay, so that is independent of time t. Okay, so probability density of t, that is the waiting time until the so let us try to find out the probability density of t, and we are doing it for the first event. Okay, so t is nothing but the waiting time. Okay, so how we will define that the it is the probability of uh, so probability until the first event occurs. So let the first event occur at time t. Okay, time small t. So the probability so the probability distribution of the waiting time until the first event occurred means uh, when the time is less than equals to t, right? When the time is less than equals to t, so p of capital T less than equals to small t gives you the waiting time until the first event occurred. So we assume the first event occurred at time t. Okay, so if you try to find out this probability, this gives you this is nothing but 1 minus uh, pt, p capital T greater than small t, right? So 1 minus probability of uh, t, probability of t that the event has already occurred, right? So this will give you uh, the probability that so this total will give you the probability that the event has yet not occurred, right? The first event has yet not occurred. So now what does it mean? It means that so there will be zero event at an in a time interval t. So this is equivalent to 1 minus, so p of t greater than t will be like probability that zero event in a time interval t has occurred. Okay, and this will get into your Poisson distribution, and as per the definition of the Poisson distribution, okay, so it will be like 1 minus so p0 of t, right? So it will be like 1 minus lambda t to the power 0 into e to the power minus lambda t by 0 factorial. Okay, so so if you simplified it, if you will get like it is 1 minus e to the power lambda t. Okay, so so this is what gives you the probability that the first event the waiting time until the first event. Okay, so if you differentiate it, so what you will get if you differentiate that ft, you will get with respect to t, you will get like f dash t is lambda into e dash of t, right, which is an exponential distribution. Okay, so the differentiation of the inter-arrival time or the service time, I mean not differentiation, the inter-arrival time or service time actually gives you that exponential the distribution of those inter-arrival time or service time is actually an exponential distribution, right? As this thing follows. Okay, and this will also be true for the time waiting time between any events, not only to the first event of a Poisson process. Okay, so this is all about the exponential distribution and your Poisson distribution. Okay, so the relationship between them. So what will be the probability that there will be only one arrival at during a time period t? So let p0 t be the probability of zero arrival during a time period t, right? And from the last slide, what we have seen that p0 t is equals to e to the power minus lambda t following the Poisson distribution, right? So for sufficiently small time interval when h tends to 0, uh, we will have like p0 of h. Okay, so you will have it e to the power minus lambda into h following this probability distribution, right? So now if you expand this e to the power minus lambda h, you will have this term like So this will be like 1 minus, so 1 minus lambda h plus lambda h square by 2 factorial minus lambda h cube by 3 factorial plus lambda h to the power 4 by 4 factorial, like that. Okay, now since h is very small, so what we will do, we'll discard the higher order terms, right? So we'll discard all the higher order terms, we'll keep only the uh, single order terms. Okay, where the order of h is 2, so this will give us the approximate value of 1 minus lambda h. Okay, so probability that zero arrival during a small time interval h is nothing but 1 minus lambda into h. H is the time interval and lambda is the rate of the arrival, right? So since h tends to 0, means the time interval is very short, so at most one event is possible, right? So at most one arrival is possible during the time interval h, right? So therefore if we try to find out p1 of h, so we can tell that p1 of h is equals to 1 minus p0 of h. Let's see, in for very small duration of time, there are two possibilities, right? Either one arrival will occur or either no arrival will occur, right? So probability of these two things will be equals to 1, right? So that is the whole probability, right? So we found that probability that no arrival will occur is equals to 1 minus lambda h, right? So probability that one arrival occur will be 1 minus this p0 of h, right? So that is equivalent to approximately equals to lambda h. Okay, so p1 of h, we can when h tends to 0, we'll have p1 of h is equals to 1 minus p0 of h, right? Because that when the time interval is really low, we can have at most one event during that interval. Okay, so this is how the relationship is established. Okay, so this is what the probability of one arrival. Okay, now we will move into modeling a queue with this information, but prior to modeling a queue, we will get to know about this Kendall's notation. Okay, so what does it mean? So Kendall notation is a convenient way to represent the characteristics of a queuing system. Okay, and there are 5 or 6 parameters to it, and in your syllabus actually they are working with the 5 parameters, so I have shown only the 5 parameters. So there is another parameters is there. So in case of, actually this first 3 term abc was derived by Kendall's, and def was derived by another person called Lee. So both of them are together called Kendall Lee probability notation. Okay, but in many of the books you will find that there are only 5 notations are given, 5 symbols are given. Okay, so and in your syllabus also they are mentioned these 5 notations, so I am following that only. Okay, so the notation have 5 parameters in it, and each of them represent some different aspects of the queuing model. Okay, so what we will have, so this one, the first one gives you the arrival distribution. Okay, so how the arrival is occurring, so the possible values for a are like this. So m denotes the Markovian process or Poisson process. So if you find that a this value of a is equals to m, you will get to know that the probability distribution or the probability distribution of the arrival is a Markovian process, or probability is or the arrival process is a Markovian process. Okay, you can have d as a deterministic on constant time. Okay, you can have Erlang or gamma distribution. In case of Erlang and gamma distribution, it will be denoted by E subscripted by K. Okay, and we will have like GI. Okay, general distributions. So I don't know what this general distribution actually means. It is written that any other distributions, I mean any distributions anyways. So this kind of values can be there in the first term. Okay, which basically represent the arrival distribution. Okay, so first term represents the arrival distribution, the second term represent the service time distribution. Okay, or in other terms the departure rate. Okay, so they also can have this set of values. Okay, so the service time may be a Markovian process. Okay, maybe it is constant time, maybe it is a gamma distribution, like that. Okay, so in that case also it will be denoted by either by m or by d or by ek, or some similar notations. Okay, C denotes the number of parallel servers. Okay, uh, so the number of parallel servers is basically can be any positive integer. Okay, so there has to be at least one server, up to there can be infinite number of servers. Okay, so what we will have, the examples that we'll do, or the queue model that we will have in our syllabus is m/m/1. Okay, so we'll have a queuing model where we'll have the arrival process is Markovian, the service time or departure process is also Markovian, and we'll have only one server. Okay, so this kind of model will work. So there will be variations of this model depending on these parameters. Okay, D and E. So what D and E represent? D represent the capacity of the system. Okay, so the capacity also can be uh, any of these positive integer, right? So the capacity should at least be 1 or can be infinite. Okay, or can be any constant, I mean from 1 to infinite. And E denotes the queue discipline. Okay, so E basically gives you the values like FCFS or FIFO, LCFS or LIRO or SIRO, like this queue discipline. So what we will have, so we'll see this M1, that is Poisson queue, and with that we will have two different variations of D. Okay, when we will have infinite capacity, or when we will have some constant capacity denoted by N. Okay, and we, for both the case, we will have FIFO. So we'll have FIFO over here. So these two kind of queue will have in our syllabus. So that is your MM1, okay, infinite FIFO, and MM1 and N FIFO. Okay, so we'll have this single server Markovian queue with N capacity and with infinite capacity. These two variations we'll do in our course. Okay, so in Poisson queue, both the arrival and service time distribution follows the Markovian process. Okay, so M and C can be C is the number of servers, so both of them has to be M. Okay, in case of Poisson process. So the first thing we will know, get to know about this one, single server Poisson queue, right? So as I told you that we'll know that single server Poisson queue, okay, along with infinite capacity, that I also mentioned. So so this is the first thing we will get to know about. Okay, and that too not in full, we'll get a part of it today, and the next day we'll complete this single server Poisson queue with infinite capacity along with the constant capacity. Okay, so that we'll see. So anyways, so how this is defined? So let this, for this queue we'll have lambda is the rate of arrival, okay, in the queue that follows the Poisson distribution. Okay, and mu is the rate of services where the service time follows the exponential distribution. So see, you will find that this process is most of the time is called that following Poisson distribution, and this process most of the time is called the exponential distribution. So what does it mean? So the arrival process, the number of people arrival follows the Poisson distribution. Okay, and the inter-arrival time, that two people are arriving, and the difference between the time between the difference between the time of their arrival, that time actually follows exponential distribution. Okay, so what I am trying to mean is that the number of event occurs, when the number of event occurs follows the Poisson distribution, the inter-arrival time follows the exponential distribution. Okay, and in this case also we are denoting this second term in terms of service times. Okay, so this is your rate of arrival, this is your service time. So service time follows the exponential distribution, so it means that the number of service occurring follows the Poisson distribution. Okay, but we'll work with this rate mu. Okay, so this is your rate of arrival lambda for this Poisson distribution, and we'll have rate of services as mu. Okay, so both of them are basically same for two different aspects. One is for arrival, another is for departure. Okay, now traffic intensity is denoted by rho, which is basically lambda by mu. Okay, and this has to be less than 1 for infinite length queue, because see, lambda is your rate of arrival, right, and mu is your rate of service, right. So rate of service has to be greater in case of infinite queue. The rate of service has to be greater than the rate of arrival, because otherwise what will happen, the arrival will be quicker, right, than rate of service. So the queue will keep on increasing, and at some point of time some people at the end of the queue will never get service, right. So that's why for infinite length queue, rho, that is the traffic intensity denoted by lambda by mu, or arrival rate by service rate, has to be less than 1. Okay, and we'll have C, or that is the number of servers, as 1. Okay, now with this information, as I told you, we will try to find out these values, right. So this is your expected number of customer in the system, expected number of customer in the queue. So ls denote the expected number of customer in the system. Okay, L means length. Okay, so length of system, length of queue, we can remember it like that. And W means waiting time. So waiting time in system and waiting time of queue, all of them are expectation values. Okay, so how we'll do that? So let Pn denote the probability of n customer in the system. Okay, so so what we will have, and also denote that Pn of t be the probability of n customer at the system at time t. Okay, so Pn actually will be represented, will be represent the probability of n number of customer in the system in case of steady state. Okay, where when it is not dependent in time. And we'll start with this Pn of t, means the probability that n number of customer in the system at time t, and we will eventually find out that it will not be dependent on t or time when it is in steady state. Okay, so what will happen, so what is the probability that there are n number of customers in the system at time t plus h. Okay, so what is the probability that there are n number of customer in the system at time t plus h, which is actually denoted by Pn of t plus h. Okay, where h is a sufficiently small time interval. So this is what we will next try to find out. Okay, so what is the probability that there are n number of customer in the system at t plus h time, where h is a small time interval. Okay, so since h is a small time interval, only one event can occur during the time interval h. Okay, so this is what we have to keep in mind, and we have to do the analysis. So let us find out what are the situation when there will have n customer at time t plus h in the system. Okay, so suppose this is the our timeline t. Okay, so this is this line represent the time t, and this is our timeline h. Okay, sorry, timeline t plus h. Okay, so the difference between t to t plus h is the small interval h, right. Now what we are trying to find out, we are trying to find out the n customer at time t plus h, right, and we are trying to find out what will be the probability of n customer at time t plus h. So when it is possible to have n customer in your system at t plus h time, there are some situation when you can have this n customer in your system at time t plus h, right. Suppose at time t you have n plus 1 customer in your system, right, and then what happened, one service has occurred, right, means one people is which person is getting served at that time, at that time t is being served. Okay, his service is complete. So during that time what will happen, so this person will leave, right, one person will leave, so the system will move from n plus 1 capacity, n plus 1 customer to n customer, right. Another scenario that might occur is like when you have n minus 1 customer at the system at time t, and one people join the queue, right. So at that time no service has occurred, so no service has occurred, nobody will left, plus one arrival has occurred, right. So one people will join, right. So the system will move to uh, system will now have n number of customers, okay, at time t plus h, right? Another scenario may occur when you will have n number of customer at time t. Now from n number of customer you can have two possible scenario, right? Where you will have like zero service and zero arrival, right? So nobody is served and nobody has arrived, right? Or you can have like one service one arrival, right? So or in general c service c arrival, right? Even for this case also these things might occur, like there are c service and c minus 1 arrival, or yes, c minus 1 arrivals, right? But see, remember that this h is very small, right? And for the h being very small, we can have only one event that could occur, right? At most one event could occur, right, between this time interval h. So this scenario, like there are c services has occurred and c minus 1 has been person has arrived. So this scenario will never occur because this cannot happen within the small interval h. Only one event can occur, okay? So that's why we will have only one service over here, only one arrival over here. So we can have zero service and zero arrival over here, but we cannot have one service and one arrival at the same in between this time interval, right? Because they represent two events, right? One is service, one is arrival, okay? But we can have at most one service, right? At most one event, right? During this time interval. So what we will have, so in time t we will have, if we have n customer in the system, so and during this time interval h, if nobody is served and nobody has arrived, then also the system can have this n number of customers, right? So these are the situations when we can have n number of customer at time t plus h, okay? So what we will trying to next, we are trying to find out the probability, right? So what we have to do, we have to find out the probability for each of this situation, okay? So probability that at time t plus h there will be n customer in the system will be probability that there are n plus 1 customer in the system at time t, right, denoted by this term. So probability there are n plus 1 number of customer in the system at time t into probability that one service and zero arrival has occurred during this time h, okay? So this is for one situation. Similarly, for the next situation we will have like probability that n customer is in the system at time t, and along with that we'll have no service, probability of no service and no arrival, okay? Similarly, we will also have this probability that there are n minus 1 customer in the system at time t, and uh, probability that zero service and one arrival has occurred during this time interval, okay? So now what we have, so if you see the slide before, so probability that one service has occurred, so all of these service and arrival process are basically Poisson process, right? And this rate of service, rate of arrival actually, uh, so rate of arrival at time h, the probability of probability of arrival, arrival of it in time h will be lambda into h, right? Lambda being the rate of the arrival, right? And rate of service was mu, right? So the probability that uh, one service has occurred during the time h will be mu h, right? So so what we have this probability of one, so we will have this like pn plus 1 into t, okay, into probability of one service, right? So probability of one service is uh, mu h, right? So probability of one service mu h into probability of zero arrival, right? So probability of one arrival is lambda h, so zero arrival will be 1 minus lambda h, following this slide, right? As we have done, like for a small interval there could be only two possibilities, right? Or either no event had occurred or one event had occurred, right? And we have this relation, right? P0 of h is equals to 1 minus p1 of h, or the other way around, p1 of h is equals to 1 minus p0 of h, right? And we also found that p0 of p1 probability that one event had occurred is basically lambda h, right? So probability that zero event has occurred is 1 minus lambda h, right? So in case of so applying this knowledge over here, okay, so probability of one service will occur, so service rate is represented by mu, so probability of one service is occur during that interval h is mu h, and probability that zero arrival has occurred is will be 1 minus lambda h, right? Okay, so similarly pn into t, pn of t into probability that zero service has occurred, so zero service occurred will be 1 minus mu h, right? And zero arrival has occurred will be 1 minus lambda h. Okay, similarly p of pn minus 1 of t into probability of zero service has occurred, so zero service has occurred will be represented by 1 minus mu h, and one arrival has occurred, right? So that will be lambda h. Okay, so now we will have this formula. Okay, so we will now try to simplify it. So if we multiply all of them, what we will have is like this. So if we simplify this, we will get this term. We will have pn1 in pn1 of t into mu h. Okay, so this will give you mu h, and we'll discard the higher order terms of h. Okay, as h tends to 0. So we'll discard that mu h, mu into mu lambda h square, right? So if you multiply this one and this one, we'll have mu lambda h square, right? So we discard that term, so we'll have only, right, we'll have only this pn plus 1 t into mu h, right? So this is what we have. In this case what we have, so if you multiply these two terms, we will have 1 minus mu h minus lambda h minus lambda mu h square, right? So we'll discard the lambda mu h square term, so we'll be left with 1. So we'll be left with 1 minus lambda h minus mu h. Alright. So for this one, we will have this pn of t and minus this term together. So okay, minus lambda plus mu into h pn of t. Okay, and finally we will have this pn minus 1 t into, so here we will have only lambda h, and lambda mu h square will be again discarded. Okay, so we will have only this lambda h term. So now if you take this term, if you take this term in the left hand side, okay, pn of t will have, so we have got this this whole equation for this one, right? Pn t plus h, right? So if you take this pn of t in the left hand side, we will have this thing, right? Pn of th minus pn of t, which will be equals to rest of the terms. Okay, so now what we will have, so keeping in mind, so we'll have like pn of t plus h minus pn of t is equals to whole of this term. So if we come over here, so this is what we have. Okay, so pn of t plus h minus pn of t is equals to these things. Okay, now what we'll do, we'll take this h. Okay, so we'll divide both the side with h. Okay, so if you do that, what will happen? So if you do that, we will have like this scenario. Okay, so all the h will be gone and rest of the thing will be there. Okay, so now this term, if you look at it, is nothing but represent the ddt of pnt, right? So since h, as h tends to 0, right, we are considering h for a very small time interval, right? So pn t plus h minus pnt divided by h is nothing but ddt of pnt, right? So in steady state, what we have, in steady state, it is not dependent on time, as we already know, so it will be 0. Okay, so it means this whole term, this means this whole term will equals to be 0, right? Okay, or other way, so if you take this term in the right hand side, it will be like pn plus 1 t into mu plus pn minus 1 t into lambda is equals to pn t, pn of t into lambda plus mu. Okay, so this is the first equation that we derived. Okay, now we will try to find out what is the probability that there are 0 customer at time t plus h in the system. Okay, so we first of all we derive what is the probability that there are n customers in the system. Okay, in steady state. Now we're trying to find out what is the probability that there are zero customers. Okay, so again we'll have these two timelines and we'll try to analyze when can we have this zero customer in this system at time t plus h. Okay, so there are scenario like when you have only one customer in at time t and one service has occurred and zero arrival has occurred, right? So one service has occurred, this customer will be left. Okay, so there will be no customer will be in the system, right? So this is one thing that can occur. Another thing that can occur, there are zero customer in the system at time t and no service and no arrival has occurred. Okay, so in that case also at time t plus h we'll have zero customer, right? But the third case, what we have in general case, we cannot have minus one customer in the system, right? So this thing we cannot have, for which we have one arrival and one zero service, right? So this thing cannot occur, right? So there are only two scenarios when you can have zero customer at time t plus h in your system, right? So these are the two scenarios. So we'll now try to find out the probability of these scenarios. Okay, so p0, so probability that there are 0% in the system at time t plus h will be like probability that there are 1% in the system at time t into probability of one service and zero arrival, right? This scenario. And we'll have probability that there are 0% in the system and probability that zero service and zero arrivals are occurred in that scenario. So now let us look at this. Here is some trick over here. So probability that there are one person in the system. Now what we have, we have one service, right? So one service means the probability of one service is mu h, right, as we have already done, and probability of zero arrival is 1 minus lambda h, right? This is fine. Now what we have, p0 into t into probability of zero service, right? Now see, in this case when you have 0%, there is no scope of service, right? I mean no scope of service, exactly, there is no scope of service, right? Means there is since there is no person in the system, nobody can be served, right? So probability that there will be no service will be exactly 1. Okay, because there are no person available to serve, so there will be no service, will probability 1. So this is the trick. Okay, so there will be since there are no person in the system now, so there will be no service. Okay, the probability of no service will be exactly 1. Okay, and probability of arrival, so probability of zero arrival will be as it is, because arrival will be independent of the thing, but service, for service you will have to have at least 1% in the system, right, which you can serve. But since there are no person in the system, so you cannot serve anybody, so the probability that there will be zero service will exactly be 1. Okay, in this case it will not be 1 minus mu h. Okay, so as I think you got the idea. So now if we expand this, so what we will have, we will again okay, so that is the explanation. So if you now expand this, what we will have, we will have like p1 of t into mu h plus if you expand this one, we will have p0 of t minus lambda h into p0 t from this blue terms. Okay, so therefore from this we will have like we take this p0 t on the left hand side, so we will have like p0 t plus h minus p0 t, we will have this term, right, the rest of the terms. Okay, and now if we put, if you take this h, if you divide both the side with h, we will have, since h is very small, tends to 0, we will have the derivative of it, right, with respect to t. So this will give us that ddt of p0 t will have p1 into p1 t into mu minus p0 t into lambda. Okay, so the similar way we have done it, right? So now again in steady state this will be 0. In steady state uh, this rate that uh, will be 0 again. So what we will have, because in steady state it will never be dependent on t, right? So that will be 0, and that's why what we will have, we will have this equation as 0, right? So from that, uh, or in other terms we will have like p1 t into mu is equals to p0 t into lambda. Okay, so this is the second equation that we have formed. Okay, now we'll so in the previous slide we have so in the previous slide we have this equation, right, for in general of n customers over there, and in the next slide we will have when we have 0 customers, right? So we now what we'll do, we'll now use these two formulas that we have derived, 1 and 2, and we try to find out. So from 1 what we can say that p1 is nothing but lambda by mu by p0. So if you look into it, so what we have is p1 is nothing, p1 of t is nothing but p0 of t by mu. Okay, sorry, p0 of t into lambda by mu. Okay, so this lambda by mu is nothing but rho, right, the traffic intensity. So from this one, so now since it is in steady state and it is not dependent on type, we have discarding the term that dependent on t. Okay, so we are just representing at p1 and p0 like that. Okay, so p1 is equals to lambda by mu by lambda by mu into p0. Okay, now uh, from 1, so in if you can remember the equation represented in 1, we have like mu into pn plus 1 plus lambda into pn minus 1 is equals to mu plus lambda uh, into p of 1. Okay, so if we put n is equals to 1, so p of n plus 1 will be p of 2. Okay, and p of n minus 1 will be 0, and p of n is equals to 1. Okay, so if you come into this formula, what we will have, so if we do this, so p1 we can as you see that p1 is equals to lambda by mu into p0, right? So we have represent p1 by lambda by mu into p0. Okay, so from that what we can say that mu p2 is equals to this whole thing, lambda plus mu into lambda by mu into p0 minus this lambda into p0, right? This lambda into p0. Okay, this is equivalent to, so if you simplify this, we will get is what we will get is like this. So lambda square plus lambda by mu divided by minus lambda by mu. So these two will be cancelled out. Okay, these two will be cancelled out, and the whole thing is divided by mu into p0. So if you simplify this, you will get this. Okay, so in short we will get like lambda square by mu into p0. So you get that mu into p2 is lambda square by mu by lambda square by mu into p0. Okay, this is what it is. Now so if you take this mu in the right hand side, or if you divide both the side with mu, what you will get is p2. So in left hand side you will have p2, and in right hand side you will have lambda square by mu square into p0, right? So this is what we derive for p2 from the equation 1 and equation 2, like. So likewise we can extend it to derive p3 p4 like that, and in general what we will find that pn is equals to lambda by mu to the power n into p0. Okay, or in other words rho to the power n into p0. So rho is nothing but lambda by mu, right? So this is what we derive, that probability that there are n% in the system in steady state will be rho to the power n into probability that there is 0% in the system at steady state. Okay, so from this, now what we can derive, so what we will do now, we will also see that we will get rid of this p0 term. So for that, what we're doing now, so now see that probability that there are n persons from 0 to infinite in the system. This is an infinite queue, right? So the value of n can 0 from 0 to infinite, right? So probability of all of them, summation of probability of all of them should be 1. So probability of all the possibilities is equals to 1, as we know. So if you expand it, what we will have, so if you expand this one, we will have like p0 plus p1. P1 means row p0, right? Plus p2 means rho square p2 plus rho cube p0 plus p3, which is equals to rho cube p0, right? So this will, it will go up to infinite, right? This should be, this whole should be equals to 1, right? That implies that if you take p0 common from this term, if you take p0 into common, p0 common, so it will look like p0 into 1 plus rho square up to infinite, right? So this is nothing but summation of GP formula and infinite summation, right? And rho is less than 1, right? So what we will have, so for summation of GP formula, we'll have, this is nothing but 1 by 1 minus rho, right? So we have like p0 into 1 divided by 1 minus rho is equals to 1, right? So this was equals to 1, so this equals to 1, right? So from that, what we get is p0 is equals to 1 minus 1 by p0 equals to 1 minus rho, right? From this equation we get p0 equals to 1 minus rho. Now we can replace the value of p0 over here to get that probability p of n, right, is equals to p rho to the power n into 1 minus rho. Okay, so this is how we can find out the probability that there are n system, there are n person in the system, n customer in the queue, not queue, n customer in the system, is basically rho to the power n into 1 minus rho. Okay, so this is basically dependent only on lambda or mu, or even if lambda or mu is not given to you, even if only rho is given to you, you can find out the probability, right? Okay, so this is what one thing. So from this information, so we are now able to find out the probability that there are n person in the system, right? So what we try to find out, we will try to find out the expected number of customer in the systems. Okay, so the four things we are trying to derive from this information, but we will do two things today, and rest of the thing we will do from the next class. Okay, uh, so expected number of customers in the system, so what we will have, so it is represented by ls, right, the length of the system. Okay, so how to derive it? So therefore ls equals to, so ls basically nothing but the expected number of expected number of customer in the system. Okay, so expected number of this customer in the system will be defined by the summation of uh, summation of I into pi means the probability that I person in the system from I equals to 0 to infinite, right? Because this is an infinite length queue, and and the and there are I person in the system, and the probability is I person in the system is pi, right? So multiplication of these two and summation of all of those from 0 to infinite is basically give you the expected value of that ls, right? So now if we expand this pi, so pi is equals to, from the last slide we know that pi is equals to rho to the power I into p0, right? Now what we'll do, we'll take the this p0 and one of the row outside. Okay, because they are not dependent on I, right? So we take one row and one p0 outside this summation, since they are kind of constant, right? So now what we can do, so you can see that this formula now looks like summation of I from 0 to infinite uh, I into rho to the power I minus 1. Okay, so this I into rho to the power I minus 1, how we can represent it? So this is nothing but so I into rho to the power I minus 1 is nothing but d rho of rho to the power I, right? So you can represent this I into rho to the power I minus 1 as derivative of this, right, with respect to rho. right? Derivative of rho to the power I with respect to rho, right? So this is what where it turns, right? Now since now what we can do, we can basically interchange this summation, means we can take the summations inside this derivative, right? With no issue. So we'll represent this one is like rho p0 into d rho of this summation. Okay, so we take the summation inside, so we'll have this summation from I equals to 0 to infinite of rho to the power I. Okay, now again this summation, this is nothing but your summation of the GP term, right? Where the factor is rho, as we done in the last slide. Okay, so this will give you 1 by 1 plus rho, right? Sorry, 1 by 1 minus rho, right? So this will be this summation will result in 1 by 1 minus rho, right? So we have to find out the dd rho of this term, right? So if we do the derivative of this with respect to rho, what we will get is 1 by 1 minus rho square, right? So this is what we get, right? Now if we expand this p0, so we also found that p0 is equals to 1 minus rho, right? So this 1 minus rho and 1 minus rho will be cancelled, and finally we will have rho divided by 1 minus rho, right? So this is what we have as a formulation for expected number of customer in the system. Okay, so ls equals to rho divided by 1 minus rho. This is how it is derived. Okay, and expected number of person in the queue. Okay, or expected number of customers in the queue. So this is represented by L cube or length of queue. Okay, so LQ is equals to, so how LQ will be defined? See, whatever derivation we have done in terms of systems, right? We do not have done any formulation in terms of Q, right? So that Pi actually gives you the number of probability that there are I person in the system, right? Not in the queue. So now I person in the system, out of the out of those I person in the system, how many person will be in the queue? So if there are m person which are being served currently, so if there are n person which are being served currently out of these I persons, so I minus n number of person will be in the queue, right? So what we are dealing with single server, right? So value of n here is equals to 1, right? So there are one person in the system currently being served, and rest of them will be in the queue, right? So what we are doing, see, so we are now, in place of multiplying I into probability of there are I person in the system, in place of multiplying it I, we are multiplying with I minus 1, because there are I minus 1 people will be in the system, in the queue, right? If there are I person in the system, there are I minus 1 person will be in the queue, right? And probability that there will be I minus 1 person will be in the queue is nothing but probability I person in the system, because one person will be in the service facility and rest of them will be queue, right? And what we are doing, we're trying to, the expected value will be the summation of this probability from 1 to infinity. Now I cannot be 0 over here, right? While we are trying to find out the length of the system, I can have 0 over here, but while we are trying to find out length of q, so I has to be at least 1, because q can be at least 0, and for q have to being 0, if q the length of q is 0, you have to have like there are one person being served. Okay, so one person being served, at the time length of the queue will be 0. Okay, so now what we will have, so if you expand this, we will have like summation of I from 1 to infinite into I into pi. Okay, and minus this, so we just multiply this I into pi over here, and 1 minus 1 into pi over here. Okay, so now if you try to look into, if you try to think about this term, what we have, so this term we can, so this will be written as this. How? See, since there is summation of I equals to 1 to infinite, right? what we can do, we can make it from I equals to 0 to infinite, because it will add 0 to this, right? This plus 0, because see, when what we are adding, we are adding, so if we make I equals to, in place of I equals to 1, if we made I equals to from 0, what we have to have, we have to add 0 into p of 0, right? So this will are adding, so essentially 0 into p of 0 is nothing but 0. Okay, so we can easily write this one as this one. Okay, there will be no effect. Why we are trying to write is because we already have a formula for this one, right? We already have a formula in the previous slide for this term, right? So that's why we are trying to make it from I equals to 0. Okay, so as I told you, so if we make it from I equals to 0, we are adding a term like 0 into p0, right? So 0 into p0 will be 0, right? So adding 0 over here will affect it nothing, right? So that's what we have done in this term. Now if you look into this term, okay, so what this term looks like, so if you expand this term from p summation of pi from I equals to 1 to infinity, we basically have like p1 plus p2, right, plus p3 up to infinite, right? There is no p0, right? So what we are doing, we are adding a p0. Okay, we are adding a p0 and we are subtracting a p0. Okay, so if you add a p0 over here, so this term will go like from I equals to 0 to infinite pi, right? Because we have added p0 and then we are subtracting this p0. Okay, so this is how this formulation comes. So now what we will have, so from the previous slide, we already have this notation, right? So what it is telling, it is telling that summation of I equals to 0 to infinite I into pi, right? So here we have ls, number of person in the system, right? So number of person in the system is this one, right? And for this we found the solution is rho divided by 1 minus rho, right? So same here, so for this we'll get that term. Okay, for this we'll get this rho divided by 1 minus rho. Now what are the rest of the term? Now if you look at this, this is nothing but summation of all the probabilities for like summation of 0% in the system plus summation of probability, I mean summation of the probabilities that there are 0% in the system plus probability of 1% in the system plus probability of n% in the system, so up to infinite, right? So all the summation of the probability will add up to 1, right? All the summation of the probability will add up to 1, right? So this summation will give you 1, and this p0, we already know that this p0 equals to 1 minus rho, right? So if you do it, so this will be like 1 minus 1 plus rho, right? So this 1 will be cancelled out, so we will have like rho minus 1 by rho minus rho, right? And if you find further simplify it, you will get, right, rho squared divided by 1 by rho. Okay, so this is what we get for the expected number of customer in the queue. Okay, not in the system. So system is basically queue plus in service, and queue means only queue. Okay, so this is the expected number of person in the system. uh, okay, so this is how this is what we have got. So we'll end up here today. The waiting time for this mm1, so waiting time for this model of queue, we'll try to find out in the next day. Along with, we'll also do the uh, other model which we will have in our syllabus. Okay, so if you have any queries, you can ask now. Okay, then we'll end our session today. The next day, in this Saturday, we'll have weekend quiz, right? And this Saturday we'll have weekend quiz only on your game theory, okay? And not on this topic, okay? Queuing theory will have weekend quiz on the next week, okay? So this week we'll have weekend quiz only on this game theory and not on this queuing theory, okay? We'll complete the queuing theory by the next week, and then we'll have a quiz on the queuing theory on the next week, okay? For queuing theory, the slides are yet not complete, so whatever has done, I'll send this up to this part to you, okay? I'll share this up to you, and again once it is complete in the next day, we'll do the other we'll see, I will send you the next slide to you, okay? I mean the total slide to you, okay? So anyways, thank you for joining. If you have any queries, you can ping it to me, or you can write a mail to me, or also write in your Google Classroom platform, okay? So ending this meeting for today.